Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Real Life Excel. Hope you're having a good day. I wanted to go through some more intermediate, at least to me, intermediate functions within Excel. So stuff that we can do that can make our lives a lot easier, that can appear a little bit more difficult than the usual basic stuff of just typing in formulas within cells, like simple formulas. I want to do some more nitty-gritty where Excel can be even more powerful. So let's get to it. So the first one is related to data validation, and I guess creating a data list. So here we have a drop-down when I select the cell. This drop-down arrow will let me select different words. And you can see that I also created a functionality using the ifs function. Let me fix that. So depending on what I select in this cell, this data list, the ifs functionality will update depending on what is in here, which is pretty nifty. So if I go up to the Home tab, then scroll over to the Data tab on the top of the spreadsheet, then if I click on the drop down arrow where it says Data Validation right by the Data Tools tab, I'll click Data Validation. Here we'll get a pop-up, and it's basically saying which type of data do you want to allow within the cell. So you can add specific numbers, certain numbers with decimals, and then a list. This is the one that I commonly use and what I've seen being used. So here we can type in multiple items within our list to then create that dropdown. So if I type in furniture, comma, so this is our first option in the dropdown, and then a comma is telling Excel I want to add another item to this list. So it's kind of our divider. So furniture, electronics, comma, bedding, comma, yard. So now that we have all four of our items that we want to have in our list, we can click OK. So now we see a drop-down arrow that is popped up in our cell. Then we can just go in and select different items that we want. And so now we can type in our logical test using the ifs function. So if I type in that equal signs and type in if, so the difference between if and ifs is if only works for one condition. Ifs, you can use it for multiple different conditions. So you can do multiple different logical tests within that same cell. So this one's even more powerful. So if I type in ifs, here we have our option where we can create a logical test. So I want to create a logical test where I select the item from the data list and then returning a value that I want it to return. So if I select this cell with a data list and then type in equals, and we need apostrophes since this is a text, furniture, closing apostrophe, and then what do we want it to return if it's true? And I just want to return 100. Maybe we have 100 sets of furniture available. Then another closing comma, and here we have our option to create our second logical test. And again, I would just want to select this cell that has the data list. So if I type, or I guess select that data list cell, then click equals. Then since we're doing a text again, we're gonna have to put in apostrophes, then electronics, closing apostrophe, then maybe we have 200 sets of electronics available. This test can also return text. So for example, if I select the cell and then do equals bedding, I can make the test return a text message. So out of stock. Pretty nifty. So you can return both numbers and text within this logical test. And comma. Then last but not least, yard, closing apostrophe, comma, and then extras in back, closing apostrophes, then our parentheses, and here we have our little logical test. So now if I click on the drop down arrow and change it from furniture to electronics, you can see that this is changing to 200 based on our logical test. And I can also change this logical test to 300, for example, and then I'll change it to 300. Now let's go to the bedding, and here we added our text where it says out of stock. And here we have our little blurb saying out of stock. Let's check on yard, then extras and back. So pretty cool if you just want a cell to only return specific values and then creating different tests to then return specific data related to that specific value within this list. So pretty nifty. Moving on to conditional formatting. Here I have a set of random numbers that I generated. If you go back to my previous video, yeah, here's our rand between. So I use that functionality right here. It's all just coming together, all mixing up together. Anyways, so if I go to the Home tab, you can see this option right here within the Styles tab, within the Home tab. And here we see Conditional Formatting button. We have a drop down. And here we have a lot of options. You can see we have highlight cell rules, top bottom rules, data bars, color scales, icon sets. Highlight cell rules, we can basically create formatting depending on the data. So we could type in a specific rule. So for example, I want certain numbers be highlighted if they're greater than a certain amount, or less than, or between, or equal to. It can even work for text or dates or duplicate values. So it's pretty good at highlighting data that you want it to highlight. Same thing right here. We can do top 10%, top bottom, or top 10 numbers, or top or bottom 10%. I can't talk today. Here's more of a visual kind of data set oriented bar fill. So if I just do the preview, you can see depending on the number, it will show a bar. So the larger the number, the larger the bar, the smaller the number, the smaller the bar. It's pretty helpful visualizing it. Here's my favorite one. It's the color scales. So you can do like a green, yellow, red color scale or a red, yellow, green color scale, basically highlighting either amounts that are larger or smaller in whatever format you want. So I'm just going to select this one since this is my favorite. Now we can see that we have all these numbers highlighted on a gradient. So lower numbers are red, higher numbers are green. For example, if I delete this number and this number, you can see that Excel's slowly updating it to where it's starting to pick up the lower number. So here now 446 is now red. So basically this gradient consistently updates whenever new numbers get put in or numbers get removed. So pretty nifty if you have conditional formatting and you start changing up your data or your amounts, then this will update automatically with you. So next one is flash fill, and this is probably something pretty common but pretty helpful within Excel. So Excel will sometimes pick up on patterns that you're doing within your spreadsheet. So for example, if I'm typing up a certain specific number or text, then it will start recommending me that text. So I typed in excellent one. Let me type in excellent one again. So now we have two of these, so we have a pattern of two. And then if I just type in an uppercase E, there we go. Now we have our flash fill. So basically Excel is recommending us this text based on our previous history. So Excel saying, hey, we think you should type this in. So if I just click enter, it will just type in the entire word. Now sometimes it can be a little bit annoying if you're trying to type in a completely different word, but since the first letter starts with the common text or the common number, you can just type in delete and it will let you do something else. So pretty nifty, but I'll just type in or let the flash fill out the rest. Awesome. So now we have name ranges. So if we have a set of data, but it's kind of difficult to find certain sets of data if we're just calling it cell B35 through B44. You know, it's not very easy to stick out or easy to identify. But with Excel, we can also name our data sets. So if I just select this data that I have right here, this simple data, if I scroll, or I guess move my cursor towards this little name box on the top left, I can type in any sort of name that I want to. So days in, and I have to be very careful here actually. So in Excel, you cannot put spaces within your data set. So for example, if I do space in a row, I'll get an error. So I have to type in a name within one word. So days in a row. So it's all in one word, no spaces. If I do want to create some sort of space, I can do the under dash. And that could work as well. So there we have our days in a row. So right here, I just have a sample sum formula for this data. But right now, this doesn't really mean anything to me. This is just a bunch of numbers and letters. But if I type this in again, equals sum, so summing up all the data. And then I remember, oh, hey, I have my data set that says days in a row. So if I type in days in a row, and Excel is also recommending it to me, days in a row, since I named this, Excel will immediately identify, oh, hey, this is the data set that you named days in a row, or whatever you wanted to name it. So it's pretty nifty if you're constantly working with a data set in a different spreadsheet or in a different tab within your spreadsheet, wherever the data is, but you can't really pinpoint it based on the cell location. You can just highlight and create a name for that data range. And we'll just make it easier. So if I do closing parentheses, type enter, here we have our 55. So pretty nifty. Thanks for watching, guys. Let me know if you have any comments or questions, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace.